Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and I hope you're ready to learn a little bit more about Swift development as well as iOS programming. Now, what exactly are we going to be learning about in today's video? Well, let's take a look at the simulator that we have on the screen, and as you can tell, it is the iPhone X device simulator, and it has two special areas that we need to deal with when making our designs and placing our elements onto the actual device. So we have this top notch area, and then we have this bottom home indicator, and all of the space in between is what iOS is calling the safe area, specified by special layout guides inside of our iOS device. So I want to show you guys how to build out this bottom control area where we have this previous and the next button, and then in between of these two buttons we have this UI page control with these pink dots in them, and as you scroll you can kind of see it interacts with the entire app. So I'm going to show you guys how to do this correctly, and if you don't do it correctly, what you'll typically end up with is some of your controls and UI elements will actually fall underneath the notch areas of the phone. So the previous, the next, and the UI control and page control is actually underneath the home indicator, and that's not exactly what you want. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we can use safe area layout guides as well as a UIStackView to build out this bottom control area. All right, so let's jump right into where we left off in the last lesson, which was episode 2 of the auto layout series. And make sure to go check that out using the link in the description below if you haven't caught up with the entire series yet. So continuing on with the show here, I would like to introduce the couple of controls at the very bottom, and let's tab into this guy. We have the previous, we have the UI page control, and then we have the next button all the way on the right side. So how do we go about doing that for our application? And I'm going to go into UIViewController and create this button right here. So let me just tab back over to my application that is incomplete, which is this over here. So let's say let previous button, previous, that's how you spell it, be of type UI button, and we'll set it equal to this closure where we construct this button. So this button right here, let's just use let button equals UI button. And UI button comes with a couple of constructors, and the one that's most useful is this type constructor, and let's use type of dot system. And then we might as well just return this UI button like so, and then we will execute the closure giving us this button, setting it equal to the previous button. If we build the project, everything should be fine and the compile errors go away. Now you can also set this to be a private variable, and this is just something that you kind of have to be careful about. Make sure you apply the correct encapsulation principles in your classes. So encapsulation is the idea of making things private, so outside classes cannot interact with the private things inside of this class. And make sure to do your research on what encapsulation is if you are unfamiliar with that theory and that concept. Okay, so now that we have this previous button, let's try to place it inside of this view somehow. Okay, how do we do that? Well, view.load seems like a pretty good place of doing this, and instead of further polluting view.load with all of this view setup code, let's perhaps create this function called setup bottom controls. That sounds like a good function. And then inside of here we can say function setup bottom controls, and try to set up our bottom area using this function. Now you can also make this file private, which is another version of private, but there is a little subtle difference, and I'll leave it up to you to do some more research on that as well. And it also has to do with encapsulation. So, a lot of good computer science theory and concepts there that you should understand if you're going to become a programmer. So what goes in setup bottom controls? Well, why don't we say view add subview of the previous button, and let's just set a frame on it for now, just so we can see it. So our previous button frame is cgrect. I believe this is the constructor xy 00 and perhaps 200 and height of 50. Sounds like a good idea. We might as well set a background color on it so that we can actually see it inside of our app. And it's very difficult to kind of figure out where your controls are landing if you don't have a background color on it. So that's what we have, and that's pretty good, right? We see the previous button, and now we just need to somehow place it correctly inside of our app. And the previous button up here, which I will, set the title of prev like that. For the control state of normal, there are a lot of control states. If you click into here, you will find them hopefully. So highlighted, disabled, selected, all this good stuff for all of the states a button has. Okay, so that is looking pretty good so far. I want to now apply auto layout so that I can anchor this button onto the screen somewhere. So, we'll enable auto layout by setting this property to false. Make sure to do that. And then the bottom controls, let's remove the frame here. And so I want to first place it on the top, just so I can show you what these safe area layout guides will help us do inside of the iPhone 10. So let's anchor it up at the very top and all the way on the left and the right and give it a height of 50. So that is done via doing this. So I'm going to say let perhaps anchors equals something. No, that's not good. There was a comment on the last couple of videos of using this activation process instead of setting isActive equals to true for all your anchors. So you can do this as well. And there is really no difference in either approach. Some ways are better than others, and just do whatever you prefer. So inside of this activate, we just set up these constraints like what we did in the last video. So I'm going to say previous button, let's see, top anchor. I'm going to anchor it to the UIViewController's views top anchor. So let's just say constraint, using this method caller here, and view dot top anchor. Let's just keep it that way, use a comma. And because this is an array of anchors, we just keep typing the next anchor, which is going to be the left anchor, or perhaps we'll use the leading anchor, which is more correct here. And we'll set it equal to the views leading anchor, which gives us that, and hit a comma. Previous button's trailing anchor, which is again the right anchor. So we can use constraint and set it equal to view.trailing anchor. So again, leading and trailing is kind of synonymous to the left and right anchors, but leading and trailing is perhaps more correct. So finally, previous button needs to have some kind of height in order to render itself. So we will set the height anchor constraint to a constant of 50. Okay. So after having done all of that, you'll notice that you don't have to set isActive equals to true for all of these anchors. This right here does it for you. And it might be a little shorter. Whatever you prefer, you can go ahead and do it according to your style. So we have the previous button, which has that red background, and then it is spanning from the left to the right, and it has a height of 50. But the problem is that it is now kind of anchored up to the very top of the simulator or the device. And we don't exactly want it all the way up there. We want it to be placed underneath this notch area, that top sensor housing area, which is that. So the way to very simply anchor it below is to just change the top anchor to use the safe area layout guide. So let's just use view.safe area layout guide and use the top anchor like so. So pretty straightforward, and hopefully you guys will be able to use this in your app as well. So that's going to put the previous button right below the safe area's top anchor, which is right there. Okay, so that's quite good. And if you want to place this on the bottom, you just apply the same sort of trick, and I will remove this top anchor. So I'm going to comment that out as a previous button dot bottom anchor constrained and view dot safe area layout guide bottom anchor like so, and hit a comma to make sure this is a correct array syntax. And that'll give me the previous button at the very bottom of the screen like so. Okay, so really good stuff there, and you guys should be able to use this technique rather easily in your applications. So I want to show you something else that you have to be very careful about. And that is when you flip your device to landscape like this, where you see that the left and the right, or the leading and the trailing anchors, also need to be placed in the safe area layout guides as well. So, this right here, the red, should not be stepping across the bounds of the safe area. So to do that, you do something very similar, and instead of using the views leading anchor for the left side, you can just use the views safe area layout guide dot leading anchor like that. And then likewise, if you flip it the other way, this right here, the right side, should also be anchored onto the safe area layout guide. So let's see, trailing anchor, and let's just run the app now, and hopefully we'll get something good, and we don't have to mess with the layout too much. And that's kind of how it works. So you have this bottom thing, which is above the home indicator, which is what this horizontal bar is called, and it's also within the correct left and right bounds of the safe area. You flip it over, you get your application, which looks like that as well. So make sure you are laying out the items correctly for your application. So hopefully I can drag this over. And this guy is really hard to drag, but that's kind of how it is for us inside of this app. And what else do I want to show you how to do today? Well, why don't we just build out the rest of the bottom controls for our app, which kind of looks like that right there. So let me ask you how you would lay out this whole area. So some of you might be taking a look at anchoring this on the left side, the previous button, and then anchoring the next button on the right side, and then perhaps anchoring the UI page control between those two components. Well, that is a perfectly fine way of doing it, but if you just use a UIStackView, it'll make your life a lot easier. So I want to show you how to do this really quickly. If I can tab back over to my app here. So I am going to place all of these components inside of a stack view. So let's just use the setup bottom controls. And instead of using this previous button, I'm going to use a container. So let's just say, let's bottom controls container. Let's see, control stack view. That's probably a better name. Be of type UIStackView like that. And let's just use arranged subviews. Okay, it's pretty good stuff. And I want to place some subviews inside of this array. And to make this easier, we're just going to create some random views. So let's just say let yellow view equals, what do we want to do? UI view, yellow view dot background color equals dot yellow. And let's just use blue view. That's a pretty good color. UI view. And blue view dot background color equals dot blue. All right, so what do we want to do with these two views? Well, let's place it inside of this array here. And let's just use the yellow view and the blue view like that. And now we have this stack view that has these two views that we can't exactly see what it looks like until we anchor the stack view into the view controller. So to do that, I'm going to comment out this line which adds the previous button, and instead let's add the subview of this bottom controls stack view. And then I'm going to kind of anchor it where this red previous button is. So let's just use that, and that. All right, so a lot of replacing of some of these anchors here, and we're just going to run it, and you're going to see exactly what it's supposed to do. So we don't see anything, and I believe it's because we have the stack view not enabled with auto layout, and some of this warning message that you see down below in the console tells us that pretty much. So if you run this now, you should see something, and we see the yellow view, but we don't see the blue view. So a good start for how to use a stack view. And to see this, see the blue view right here, we simply say bottom control stack view dot distribution equals dot fill equally. So a stack view is a really good component because it just fills up the entire stack view with the subviews, and it makes it look like that without you having to do too much with the anchoring of the arranged subviews array. So that's kind of how that works. If you want to change it so that it is a vertical stack view, you can also change the axes like that, equals dot vertical, and that'll place the yellow view on the top, and then you'll have the blue view at the bottom. And because the distribution is filled equally, depending on how tall your stack view is, you know, if you modify this to 150, then you'll get each of the arranged subviews to span half of the entire stack view, which looks like that. All right, so that's how it works, and we don't have to specify the axis equals horizontal because that's what the default value is. And if you place another view into that stack view, you're going to get 3 views which have an equal width. So let's just use another subview up here. So let's just say let perhaps green view equals UIView. And surprise, surprise, background color equals dot green. And then inside of the arranged subviews array, let's place this green view in there. And then run our application one more time. You'll see the yellow view on the left, which is that way actually, and then the green, blue, like this. So yellow, green, and blue. Good stuff there. And I believe the mixture of yellow and blue is green. So that's kind of what this pattern is symbolizing right now. So that's how that works. If you flip the screen over, hopefully I can grab a hold of this and drag it over. You flip it over, the stack view controls all of the arranged subviews so that it just spans the entire width correctly, and you don't have to worry about the anchoring. That's perfectly the layout component that we need to set up that bottom control area. So, you know, the rest of the setup work is pretty straightforward. We want to get ourselves a next button. So I'm just going to copy and paste all of this code, which is always pretty dangerous. And I've been in plenty of production situations where a bug usually shows up if you do copy and pasting. No matter how innocuous or safe you think it is, it's always pretty dangerous. So having said that, we're going to do that and apply the copy and pasting with that next button, and use, instead of these, you know, random views right here, we will perhaps keep the green view. So I'm going to comment out the yellow and blue view and use the previous, no, that's not what I want, previous button, and then the blue view is my next button, like that. Okay. Hopefully, running this, I'll get something to show up that looks somewhat correct to what I am looking for. So let's see, running that, we get the previous, we get the next, and then we get the green in between. So in order to make this a little bit closer to what our mock kind of looks like, which is this completed application, I think this is all caps, so previous and next, like that. You know, these buttons always have a title label with a font of bold. So let's just use bold system font of, what is this, 14 maybe? That looks pretty good to me. I'll copy and paste this and put that in here. And then perhaps we can set the title color as well. So button dot set title color to be, I don't know, what does this look like? Gray perhaps? And normal like that. So that's good. I'm going to remove these couple of comments, maybe remove that red color at least, and try to run our app now. And we should get something that's a lot closer to what this mock looks like. So we have the previous button right there. So it's a gray, and then we have this next button over here. And the UI page controller should really be this green block. So do I have enough time to show you guys how to do that? Might as well do that here. Private let page control. That's a good name for a UI page controller, I suppose. Set it equal to that. Let UI PC equals UI page control. Use the empty constructor PC dot current page, I guess, equals to 0. PC dot number of pages equals to 4. return PC, and we set all of this as our page controller right here. So let's just hopefully show this inside of our app. So this is the green block, which means that I have the right or the ability to comment that out right now and replace that with the page control. And if I run this, hopefully I'll see the dots down below. I might not see them because I believe the default color for those dots is actually white. So let's just say pc.color for the page control. And we have a couple of different things we can do here. Current page indicator. Let's just set this equal to, what is the app? I think it's this red dot right here. So this is the current page color, this dot. So let's just say dot red. I guess that's kind of okay. And then the page indicator color is, let's just use dot gray for now to make sure the page control actually shows up. And then we can, perhaps further style the color for these dots. So that's really good. And, that's nice and looks okay. So in order to make this next button this pinkish color, I can get that color by using a UI color. So, this is not always the most exciting thing to look at, but let's just say next button and button.setTitleColor equals some kind of color. So let's just say let pink color equals UI color. And you can construct this with the RGB values here. And I think I have the RGB values on another screen, which is 232. And you always have to divide these values by 255. It's just how colors are constructed. Not exactly sure I want to go into too much detail as to why that is. But nonetheless, that's how you construct your colors and use the pink color normal state. And then run the application. You'll see a pink color for the next button, which looks like that right now. Now, in order to set the kind of faint color for the dots right here, let's see if I can grab a hold of that color. So I am going to copy and paste some code from another screen, which you cannot see, and replace the page controllers or page controls page indicator tint color to be this color right there. Let's just run. Hopefully that is a lot closer to what you want to show. If you want to make this red color or this dot right here, which is actually red, to be this pink color, you can either copy and paste the color or build an extension for your code. Do I want to show you what that looks like? Well, let's just see if we have a little bit of time here. So instead of using red, I want to use this pink color. So you can perhaps copy and paste like that and use a pink color and you should be okay. I would rather move this into an extension, and so that is a different type of pink color which matches this and that right there. So let's see, how do we want to do an extension? Well, let's just use an extension right here on UI color, and perhaps a function. I think perhaps a static function or a static var would be better. So static var, let's see, pink. Let's see, main pink color. Now I think the convention is to leave out the color and just use a color constructor like that. So if I paste in that pink color, which is down here somewhere, let's just copy and paste all of that code, put that in there as my pink color. Now UI color has a variable called main pink on it. So it's going to be very similar to how we use the kind of default colors of yellow and blue. So instead of using pink color for the page control, we'll just use dot main pink. I think that works. Okay, so that's how we use extensions to make our lives easier. So let's just remove this pink color as well and use dot pink or dot main pink, and we should be okay. So we'll run this and hopefully our code and our app design looks like what we want it to look like. So that looks like exactly what we had before, which is good. And that's kind of how we use UIStackViews, as well as the safe area layout guides to make our application look like exactly what the designers want. Okay, that's going to wrap it up for today's video. Like always, you can find the source code for today's video down in the description link below. If you are also interested in learning more about iOS development, make sure to check out the Instagram Firebase course, also down in the description below. We're in the process of updating everything so that it works in Xcode 9 as well as iOS 11. So make sure to go check that out. So in the next lesson for the series, we're going to look at how we can swipe between each one of the individual pages inside of our application so that it's more like a walkthrough application. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already for more lessons like this. Keep on coding, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.